Hi guys, welcome back to TV Spoilers. Today I'm going to reveal a crucial secret in Cain and Daniel's plan. What might happen when Phyllis unexpectedly betrays her own son. Alliance with Daniel to overthrow Phyllis. Cain approaches Daniel Romalotti Jr. proposing an alliance against Phyllis. Cain will provide Daniel with evidence of Phyllis's manipulative and treacherous behavior, particularly her past exploitation of Daniel, convincing him that this is his last chance to protect Tessa and escape his mother's negative influence. Daniel will stand between loyalty to his mother and a desire for justice. Cain doesn't approach Daniel with the overt confidence of a manipulator, but with the composure of someone who has calculated for too long to understand that one wrong move could backfire. Daniel was no longer the easily manipulated boy he once was, but a persistent weakness remained within him. The shadow of Phyllis. It was both a familial bond, an emotional debt, and something that constantly made Daniel question whether he loved his mother or feared her. Cain chose the perfect moment when Daniel was weary of the cracks in his life, and bewildered by Tessa, by Mariah, and by the feeling that the happiness he had just grasped was in danger of being snatched away. Cain didn't beat around the bush. He offered a proposal that sounded like an escape, but was actually a door into darkness, an alliance to overthrow Phyllis. Daniel reacted instinctively, like someone who had been caught in too many storms. He was wary, even annoyed, because anyone who mentioned Phyllis was touching a wound that never fully healed. Cain emphasized that this wasn't a trivial personal matter, but a link in a larger picture, the recent conspiracy targeting Newman. The way Cain spoke compelled Daniel to listen, for Newman wasn't just a powerful name, but a symbol of battles that could devour anyone nearby. Daniel understood the ruthlessness of such games, and even more so, that if Phyllis was playing, she would play to the very end, regardless of who was dragged into it. Yet, precisely because he understood, Daniel panicked even more. He didn't want to believe his mother was involved in another conspiracy, and even less did he want to become a tool in someone else's war. Cain didn't demand Daniel's immediate belief. He presented the most dangerous thing to Daniel: evidence. The pieces were laid down little by little, like a slow tightening. Cain didn't tell the story in a brutally accusatory way, but rather reminded Daniel of his own life, as if everything Daniel had tried to forget was still there, ready to resurface at the slightest touch. Daniel hears the noise of the past in his head, the times he unconditionally trusted Phyllis only to find out he was merely following his mother's lead. The times he thought he was doing the right thing, but it turned out to be only serving her purposes. Cain focuses on the most painful point. Phyllis had manipulated Daniel, using affection as leverage, made Daniel feel both protected and controlled. And Cain takes a cruel but effective step further, warning about a new plan that could harm Tessa. The Cain-Daniel alliance begins in secret, with the caution of two men understanding they are standing on thin ice. Daniel cannot be open, for even the slightest hint would send Phyllis sniffing it out. Cain also cannot be hasty, for moving too quickly would scare Daniel and make him turn back. They gathered more information step by step, piecing together details about how Phyllis operated, the relationships she exploited, and the links she used to get closer to her goal. Daniel worked, torn between conflicting emotions, as if each piece of information he touched was a new cut into his loyalty. He wondered, if his mother knew, would she see him as a traitor or as the last son who dared to say, "Enough is enough"? Phyllis began to feel a chill run down her spine. There was no concrete evidence, only the instinct of someone who had lived by battlefield intuition. Something was shifting around her, an unsettling silence, a gaze no longer entirely hers. But what made her dangerous was that she hadn't yet realized Daniel was standing on the opposite side. For Phyllis, Daniel remained a safe haven, a place she believed she could pull back to at any time with the right words, the right tone, the right memories. She could suspect Cain, she could suspect the outsiders, but she could hardly suspect her own son, because that would mean admitting she had lost the thing she always thought she had the most control over. Daniel stood caught between two tightly strung ropes. On one side was filial piety, the past, the image of Phyllis who had fought for him, who had done crazy things believing it was for her family. On the other side, it was justice and love, Tessa, and the chance to become a man who could make his own decisions instead of being led around. Daniel wasn't sure he was doing the right thing, only that he couldn't continue doing the easy way. And just when he thought he was discreet enough, cautious enough, and cold enough to keep everything under control, a small detail unexpectedly slipped out of the chain of secrets like a pin falling from a shirt. Phyllis realized something related to Tessa was being mentioned behind her back, and her instincts immediately turned to Daniel like a needle finding the softest spot to pierce, making Daniel understand that the next blow might not be aimed at Cain, but directly at the person he had just promised to protect. And that was when their alliance entered its most dangerous moment. Because Daniel began to wonder if the demand for absolute safety had been an illusion from the start.